You're listening to the Mezzo Guild podcast.
بس أنا لازم أحسه الأول عشان أقوله.
아직 나의 어색한 한국말이 짤따рат하고 지적하지 말아주세요.
Я хочу с тобой серьезно поговорить.
Really good news, Farragut. No, I can quit this Maldinas a year short.
Language learning made simple. Almost every week I get emails from new startups and individuals asking me to review their language learning websites and mobile apps, and they're always touted to me as being the latest and greatest thing. The problem is that no matter how impressive a lot of these new innovative apps and websites look or sound, I find that most of the time the concepts show little to no innovation whatsoever. They just reinvent the wheel. They're always reinventing the wheel. For example, I had a company recently sent me access to a high-priced mobile app, and it looks really nice in terms of its branding and its design. But when you open it up, you find out that all it is another really fancy-looking flashcard and phrasebook app. They get 10 out of 10 for aesthetics and 0 out of 10 for originality. So what I do is I send a follow-up question, which is always the same to all these people who contact me. I always ask them the same question, which is this. Can you give me one reason, at least one reason, why you believe your product is the next best thing? What is it about your product that makes it so special? Why is it so unique? And yet you'd be amazed how many people can't answer that question. So many language startups are unable to provide me with a unique selling proposition, a USP. When companies can't give this to me, when they can't give me a unique selling proposition, it signals to me, it tells me straight away that they are probably, in all likelihood, solely motivated by profit, solely motivated by tapping into an existing market to make profit rather than actually responding to needs, rather than actually producing something new that answers existing needs. Of course, I don't like to discourage startups from trying to break into the market, but it always just seems that existing solutions are forever being recycled. So this whole thing has led me to ask two questions, which I think are really important. One, the first question is that has language learning app innovation reached its peak already? In other words, has everything been done? Has it all been done? And are we out of ideas? Is there nothing left to do as far as producing new innovative web and mobile apps that actually solve problems? The second question is, has technology become detrimental to the way that we learn languages? Has technology become, at least to a large extent, detrimental? Has it become a detriment to the way that we actually learn languages? So I'll give you my thoughts on both, starting with the second question. Let me start out by saying that I believe technology, or at least some technology, is contributing to an epidemic of skill retardation. It's affecting the way that we acquire skills. There have been numerous studies and loads of articles written on this topic already. The fact is that we are collectively getting worse at most things, at just about everything. We're getting worse at mathematics. We're getting worse at literacy. We're getting worse at being able to read maps. We're getting worse at most hands-on skills. And we're even getting worse at using our memory. And you can Google what's been called the Google effect and the way that it's affecting the way we use our memory. Now, millennials in particular, the millennial generation of people, are already proving to be the least skilled generation ever. And a lot of companies actually, they recognize this. They recognize that you get all these millennials that may be graduates, they may have degrees, so they've got tons of head knowledge. But in terms of their actual workplace skills and life skills, they're pathetic. They suck. So companies are reluctant to hire young graduates for this reason. It's a serious problem. Even my wife, who's a primary school teacher, is often telling me about the growing number of children that she sees at school who lack basic rudimentary skills and knowledge. And this is a new thing. It extends also to social skills. Young people are becoming more inept at basic human communication. They're becoming more inept at handling conflicts. And they're even becoming inept at dating and meeting people. So naturally, if all of these skills are being negatively affected, at least in part by technology, then shouldn't we question the possibility that it may be having an effect on language learning as well, because language learning is, after all, another cognitive skill. It's another cognitive skill. Getting out and actually learning a language by connecting with other people face to face is a tough slog. It's hard work. It's a hard job. There's no way to cheat this or to speed it up. In the same way that you can't cheat becoming a maestro violinist or a professional painter. Unless, of course, someone invents a way to upload a language to the human brain, it's just not possible. You have to go through the hard slog of actually talking to people and failing a lot and making lots of mistakes. And it's just the way it is. Languages are essentially comparable to the challenge of learning any other skill. But this skill challenge is a necessary part of the process of advancing. It's a necessary process of becoming better, of improving at a foreign language. As far as app innovation goes, as far as web app innovation goes especially, I believe the way that user interface design is evolving speaks volumes. And if you know anything about the way that web design, you'll know what I mean. But interfaces, if you look at websites now, they're becoming more and more infantile in their simplicity. They're becoming infantile in the sense that web standard now is to see flat design with simple color palettes, big buttons with really minimal text and little distraction. And it's quite standard. If you look at all of the modern websites now, the modern website design, you can't help but notice that they're looking more and more like digital toddlers' toys. It's as if the average user, the average app user or web app user is assumed to have the attention span of a young child, and these apps are actually catering to it. And this is becoming standard now for many websites, especially the educational websites that are aimed at adult learners. And this is the crazy thing, that they're aimed at adult learners, but they're so simplistic in their design because they can't have too much information. They can't have too much distraction because it's almost as if we can't handle it anymore. At what point, and I ask this all the time, at what point did adult attention spans become so poor? There seems to be more of an emphasis in this design evolution on stimulation rather than genuine information and problem solving. The reason why I'm highlighting this is not to be overly cynical, but because I think that the direction that interface design is heading in says a lot about the way in which adult learning is regressing. So on the question of innovation, has it all been done already? Or have we run out of ideas? There has definitely been a lot of great innovation on web and mobile apps for language learning over the last, say, 5 to 10 years. And I'll give you some examples. You look at assisted readers. You've got Learning with Text, which is an open source web app somebody developed. You got Link, which is that's LINGQ, developed by Steve Kaufman, which is basically the same as Learning with Texts, but it's a paid program. You've got ReadLang, which is another one. This is software that helps you read by allowing you to interact with the written text to get instant translations of terms and phrases, and to be able to sort of save up a database of terms. So it's an assisted reader. It helps you to read. Then you got video lesson and facilitation like italki. These are services that act as a go-between, connecting students and teachers or conversation partners remotely. Then you've got assisted video viewers. These are probably the most recent thing that have come out that I've started to see quite a bit of. And they're like the assisted readers, but they're for video. So you've got FluentU, Yabla3years.com, which is a Russian one that I recently found out about. And these are sites where you can watch videos, streaming videos from YouTube or wherever that have subtitles, but you can interact with the subtitles. So you can pause it, you can click on a word, and just like the assisted readers, it will give you the definition, it will give you other information about that term and help you follow along with the video. Then you've got translation and pronunciation services, so things like forvo.com or folklore.ie, which is for Irish. These are places where you can find word and phrase pronunciations and translations. You got instant messages like HelloTalk, which are kind of like WhatsApp, but just for language learning. They're kind of designed just for language learning, but very similar to WhatsApp. You've got gamified grammar study like Duolingo. These are web apps that turn grammar study into a challenging and aesthetically pleasing game. And you've got digital flashcards and phrasebooks like Memrise and Mosalingua. And these are basically visual front ends for flashcard and phrasebook material. But here's a question. If you look at flashcard apps, just for example, how much left is there really to innovate at this point? How much is there to innovate? We've gone from old-fashioned written words on cards, on actual cardboard cards, to an app form in the form of something like Anki, where it's a downloadable app that can remind us when and what to study. And we've progressed on from there to a gamified web app like Memrise.com, which turns the whole process into a visual game. These are really great products, and I use both of them. But if you peel back the extra features and aesthetics of Anki and Memrise, at their very core, they're exactly the same thing, the exact same memory exercise as the original cardboard flashcards were. It's basically just a simple and repetitive spaced memory exercise. In other words, you flip through, you look at a word, you put it at the back of the deck, you go back to it a little bit later and you look at it again, and you continually do it over a period of time until you can remember it, until you can recall the answer. The main difference between these is that some of the more mundane tasks have become automated, including having to remember when and what to study, since the software takes care of that for you. You don't need to remind yourself to study a word because the software will actually let you know. In addition, other people can make cards for you, so that eliminates the need for you to actually create anything. So the process of writing down words and looking up definitions and all the rest of it is basically eliminated because you've got a way that other people can produce the content for you to study. The gamification in Memrise, that's the growing and the watering plants. The whole thing is a game. You've got to basically continue to grow your plants and keep them watered. It serves as an extrinsic motivator, which I've talked about before. There's something oddly fulfilling about making cartoon plants grow. As you grow your plants, you gain titles. So you become a membrane or a memocrat, for example, and you can compete on a leaderboard against other users. These are extrinsic motivators. They're fun features, and they all serve a simple core purpose. The same purpose as the old-fashioned written flashcards, the old-fashioned cardboard flashcards. It's all the same thing. The purpose is to get you to recall words and phrases through spaced repetition, repeated exposure over a period of time at various intervals. So my question is, what is there left to innovate in this instance? What is left to innovate? What else can you do to make that more innovative? While there may be room for, say, improving visual design or adding new forms of gamification to apps, so let's say, for example, instead of watering plants, you're stopping a zombie apocalypse or something, some different form of game that basically does exactly the same thing. What further substantive improvements can you actually make to such a basic skill builder? And are these aesthetic features, are these gamified motivators and automations actually advancing your skills at all? Are they actually advancing your hard skills at all? I'm really not sure where I stand on this anymore, if I'm honest. I don't know where I stand on this anymore. I'm not sure if I do think so. There's no doubt that when you automate something as simple as looking up a foreign word in a paper dictionary, which is quite time-consuming and tedious, and the act of physically writing down words on paper by hand, you are making things more convenient for yourself. There's no doubt about that. Less time preparing, less time prepping, and more time on the actual target language itself. Now, it sounds like a positive thing. It's decluttered learning. It means you're getting straight to the learning and cutting out the mundane activities, the mundane process. But when a web or a mobile app reminds you that you're starting to forget a word, or in the case of something like Duolingo, informs you how well you know certain topics or aspects of grammar, it starts to remove the need to self-assess. In other words, you don't have to self-assess anymore. You don't have to look at yourself anymore and say, okay, I need to study this particular area. I want to do this. I want to do that. Because the software is got you on a trajectory, and it's keeping you informed of what you know and what you don't know, or what it thinks you know and what you don't know. It replaces a certain amount of responsibility with convenience. It's taking away your responsibility. Now, you might see this as a positive thing, but I'm not really sure if I see that as a positive thing anymore. So I'm becoming more and more convinced that these kinds of conveniences may be detrimental, may actually be detrimental. At the very least, an illusion of progress, a waste of time, rather than being beneficial to your skill building. So my question to you is this: what do you think? Do you think that there are ideas out there that we can still come up with? Do you think that there are innovations that are yet to be made in the area of web and mobile apps for language learning? Do you think that there are things that we could definitely expand on? And if so, what are they? I'd love to hear your opinion.